What happens when the ocean's deadliest predator strikes without warning? From a family's tragic cage diving experience in South Africa to a triathlete's fatal encounter during a competition, these shark attacks are as shocking as they are devastating. Witness the horror of a freediver's final record attempt, a surfer's early morning tragedy, and a family kayaking trip that ends in heartbreak. Join us as we uncover 6 gripping tales of human encounters with sharks that turned the ocean into a nightmare. On January 5, 2025, the Hernandez family from Barcelona embarked on a long-awaited adventure in Gansbaai, South Africa. This picturesque coastal town, famously known as the Great White Shark Capital of the world, was their destination for an exhilarating cage diving experience. The family of 4, Mateo, his wife Elena, and their children, 17-year-old Sophia and 14-year-old Lucas, had been planning this trip for years. It was a dream come true for them to witness the majestic great white sharks up close in their natural habitat. Mateo, a marine biology enthusiast, was deeply fascinated with ocean life, which he had passed on to his children. Sophia shared her father's passion and was excited to experience the thrill of seeing a shark underwater. Lucas, who was more reserved, looked forward to sharing the moment with his family. Elena, though apprehensive, was eager to support her loved ones and create unforgettable memories. The day began with anticipation, as the family boarded the diving vessel and sailed into the calm waters off the coast of Gansbaai. The ocean glistened under the morning sun, and the crew briefed the passengers about safety procedures. The sturdy steel cage, designed to protect divers, was lowered into the water, and the Hernandez family took their positions, each wearing wetsuits and diving masks. As they descended into the clear blue depths, the excitement in their eyes was unmistakable. Moments later, the first shark appeared, gliding gracefully through the water. The family was awestruck by its sheer size and elegance. More sharks began circling the cage, drawn by bait the crew had placed in the water. Suddenly, a massive 17-foot great white shark emerged from the depths, moving with unusual aggression. It charged at the cage with tremendous force, its powerful jaws clamping down on the steel bars. The cage twisted violently under the shark's impact, and the family's expressions of awe turned into terror. The shark struck again, breaking through the cage's reinforced steel. Mateo was pulled out first, his body disappearing into the predator's jaws. Sophia, reaching for her father, was next, her screams muffled by the water as the shark dragged her away. Elena and Lucas remained trapped inside, paralyzed by fear. As the cage collapsed further, the water churned red. Above the surface, the crew scrambled to intervene, but the scene had already descended into chaos. The sea was in turmoil as the massive shark continued its relentless assault. Elena and Lucas, still inside the broken cage, were thrown violently against the jagged edges of the twisted steel. The water was a horrifying mix of blood and bubbles, obscuring their view of what was happening around them. Above the surface, the crew desperately tried to pull the cage back onto the boat, but the damage was too severe, and the shark's aggression made it impossible to get close. Elena's body was the next to be claimed by the shark, her outstretched hand reaching toward Lucas in a desperate, fleeting gesture before vanishing into the dark abyss. Lucas, the last surviving member of his family in the shattered cage, sat paralyzed with shock, his screams swallowed by the chaos of the sea. The predator circled back with unrelenting precision, its powerful jaws closing around Lucas with the same merciless force that had claimed his loved ones. As the shark dragged him from the mangled wreckage, the ocean fell eerily silent, leaving no one to bear witness to its final haunting retreat into the vast and empty depths. The aftermath of the attack was devastating. When the crew finally managed to pull the mangled cage onto the deck, the realization that all 4 family members were gone left everyone in stunned silence. Rescue efforts by nearby boats arrived too late. The surrounding waters told the tragic story, but there was nothing more they could do. News of the attack spread quickly, sending shockwaves across the globe. The Hernandez family's tragic end became a stark reminder of the dangers of interacting with wild predators, even in controlled environments. Investigators arrived at the scene within hours to assess what had gone wrong. They noted the shark's unusually aggressive behavior and discovered evidence of increased baiting in the area, which may have attracted larger and more dangerous predators. The tragedy also raised serious questions about the safety of cage diving operations. The company that organized the trip faced intense scrutiny for using a cage that failed to withstand the shark's impact. Experts in marine biology called for a reassessment of how these tours are conducted, emphasizing the need for stronger cages and stricter protocols to protect divers and wildlife. In the weeks following the attack, memorials were held in Barcelona to honor the Hernandez family. Friends and neighbors mourned their loss, remembering them as a close-knit family with a shared love for adventure and the sea. Their deaths became a catalyst for change, prompting governments and tourism boards to implement stricter safety measures in shark diving tours around the world. Once seen as a thrilling destination for adventurers, the waters off Gansbai now carried a somber weight. The attack on January 5, 2025 served as a haunting reminder of the unpredictable power of nature. Despite the tragedy, it sparked global conversations about respecting wildlife and finding safer ways to experience the ocean's wonders. The legacy of the Hernandez family lived on as a call for change and a sobering lesson in the balance between adventure and safety. On October 5, 2024, Jake Martinez, a local surfer from Hawaii, woke up early for his morning surf session. Jake was 28 years old and had been surfing for most of his life. He had grown up on the island of Oahu, where the ocean was as much a part of him as the land. His father, also a surfer, had taught him how to ride waves when he was just a child, and from then on Jake was hooked. By his teenage years, he was already known as one of the best surfers on the island, mastering the waves at popular spots like Waimea Bay and Sunset Beach. Jake's reputation for expert riding at some of Hawaii's most challenging surf spots had earned him respect from the local surf community. He was known for his calm demeanor and deep connection to the ocean. Many considered Jake a local legend in the surf world, not only for his skills, but for his respectful attitude towards the waves and the wildlife that lived beneath them. He spent most mornings on the water, enjoying the thrill of catching waves before the crowds arrived. It was his routine, a part of his life that he cherished more than anything. That morning, the weather was clear, and the waves were perfect. As the sun began to rise over the Pacific Ocean, Jake paddled out ready to ride the waves. The beach was quiet, with only a few other surfers scattered along the shoreline, waiting for the perfect swell. Jake was in his element as he paddled into the lineup, scanning the horizon for the next wave. He knew these waters like the back of his hand and could accurately read the ocean's patterns. Something unexpected happened around 6:15 a.m. as Jake was riding a large wave. Without warning, a massive 10-foot great white shark breached from beneath the water, launching itself into the air with incredible force. It struck Jake on the leg, its powerful jaws sinking into his flesh and dragging him off his board. The force of the shark's attack knocked Jake underwater, and his board was thrown aside in the chaos. The surrounding surfers, who had been enjoying their morning session, heard the commotion and rushed toward the scene, hoping to help. As they approached Jake, they could see the shark's immense size, and they realized the severity of the situation. Having latched onto Jake's leg, the shark pulled him deeper into the water. The ocean's roar muffled his screams as the shark thrashed, dragging him further from the surface. The nearby surfers desperately tried to reach him, paddling furiously. But the shark's grip on Jake was strong, and the danger was clear. Within moments, the shark released its hold and Jake was left drifting in the water, barely conscious of the attack's shock. The surfers who reached Jake immediately began trying to help, but by the time they got him back to the shoreline, it was clear that the damage was severe. Jake's leg had been badly bitten and he was bleeding heavily. Despite their quick actions, the injuries from the shark attack were too much for Jake to survive. The emergency response teams arrived shortly after, but it was too late to save him. Jake Martinez, the skilled surfer and beloved local figure, had succumbed to the wounds inflicted by the shark. The attack shook the surfing community and raised serious concerns about the safety of surfers. While shark attacks in the region were rare, the attack on Jake brought attention to the increasing frequency of shark sightings near popular surf spots. The authorities acted quickly, implementing new safety measures, including increased patrols and heightened awareness for surfers in shark-prone areas. The tragic death of Jake Martinez served as a reminder of the unpredictable and dangerous nature of the ocean, even for the most experienced and knowledgeable surfers. The aftermath of Jake Martinez's tragic death reverberated throughout the local community and the surfing world. As the news of the shark attack spread, there was an outpouring of grief and disbelief. Jake had been a beloved figure, admired for his skill on the waves and his generous and respectful attitude toward the ocean and those around him. His death left a void in the local surfing scene, and many surfers who had known him personally were left to process the sudden loss of someone who had become a mentor and friend. The attack also raised serious concerns about the safety of surfers in Hawaii, especially in areas like Waimea Bay and Sunset Beach, known for their big waves and frequent shark sightings. While shark attacks are rare, the incident involving Jake prompted local authorities to re-examine the safety protocols in place for surfers. Shark sightings had been increasing in recent years, and the tragedy served as a reminder of how unpredictable the ocean can be, even in familiar waters. The Hawaii Land and Natural Resources authorities immediately responded to the attack. They launched a series of safety initiatives aimed at preventing future incidents. These included more frequent patrols by shark spotters, who monitored shark activity in the area, and increased awareness programs for surfers. New guidelines were introduced to advise surfers on the best practices for reducing the risk of shark attacks, such as avoiding surfing in the early morning or late afternoon when sharks are most active. They also advised surfers to avoid areas with a high concentration of baitfish or seals, which can attract sharks. Although devastated by his loss, Jake's family found solace in the community's outpouring of support. Surfers worldwide paid tribute to Jake, sharing stories of his generosity, skill, and passion for the ocean. A memorial was held in his honor at Waimea Bay, where many of his friends and fellow surfers gathered to remember the man who had inspired so many. The event reminded Jake of his legacy as a mentor and friend who had dedicated his life to surfing and shared that passion with everyone around him. As the days and weeks passed, the shock of Jake's death began to settle into the community. His absence was felt deeply, and many surfers nearby struggled to find the same joy in the ocean without his presence. The sport they all loved now carried a weight that it hadn't before, as the memory of the shark attack lingered in their minds. As the surfing community continued to heal from the tragedy, Jake Martinez's death served as a stark reminder of the risks associated with surfing, especially in areas inhabited by large predators like great white sharks. While the ocean would always be a source of awe and adventure, Jake's story reminded everyone that it could also be unpredictable and dangerous, even for the most experienced surfers. His legacy would live on in the lessons he taught and the lives he touched. On July 11, 2024, Maria Solis, a professional freediver from Spain, embarked on a daring challenge off the coast of Italy. Maria was known for her exceptional ability to dive deep into the ocean without any breathing equipment. She had spent years training for this moment, and on this particular day, she aimed to break the world record for the deepest dive. Maria was no stranger to extreme depths. She had already earned numerous accolades for her achievements in freediving and had become a recognized name in the diving world. Her calm demeanor and precise techniques had earned her the respect of her peers. Maria's journey into freediving began when she was a young woman. Growing up near the sea in southern Spain, she had always felt deeply connected to the ocean. As a child, she spent her summers swimming and exploring the coastline, fascinated by the underwater world. Her passion for diving developed as she got older and eventually pursued it professionally. She started diving for sport and then moved on to competitive freediving, quickly becoming known for her ability to dive longer and deeper than most. By the time of her world record attempt, Maria was an expert freediver with an unmatched ability to hold her breath for long periods and manage extreme depths. She had already broken several regional records and was determined to make history. Her goal for this dive was to reach a depth of 250 feet, an extraordinary feat requiring physical strength and mental focus. She was confident in achieving her goal, and everything about her preparations had been meticulous. The location for her record attempt was the deep waters off the coast of Italy, an area known for its crystal-clear water and rich marine life. It was ideal for such a dangerous and demanding dive. Maria had trained here many times before, but this time was different. This dive would push her to the limit, and she was ready. At 8 a.m., Maria took the plunge. She descended into the depths, each stroke bringing her further from the surface. The water around her was eerily calm, and she focused on her breathing, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. As she reached a depth of about 125 feet, everything seemed perfect. She was in control, and the world above seemed so far away. But suddenly everything changed. As Maria approached the halfway point of her dive, a large shadow appeared beneath her. It was a bull shark, a creature she knew well from her previous dives in the region. At first, the shark circled her cautiously as if observing her. Maria, familiar with sharks from her training, tried to stay calm. She knew sharks were often curious creatures and would usually move away once they observed a diver. However, this time the shark did not retreat. The shark began to move closer, its massive body gliding through the water with surprising speed. Maria, realizing that the situation was escalating, attempted to ascend. She kicked her fins and started swimming upward, hoping to distance herself from the predator. But before she could make much progress, the shark struck. The shark bit down on her arm and leg with terrifying force. Maria's body was jerked violently, and she was momentarily stunned by the pain. Despite the shock, she continued to swim upward, desperate to reach the surface. Her thoughts raced, and her heart pounded as she fought to escape the shark's relentless pursuit. The pressure of the water, combined with the shark's aggression, made every movement more difficult. Maria's strength was beginning to wane as she struggled to ascend, but she did not give up. She knew that survival depended on her ability to stay calm and focused. She could feel the weight of the attack as the shark continued to circle her, waiting for another opportunity to strike. As Maria struggled to ascend, the shark followed her, its movements fast and relentless. Despite her best efforts, the pain from her injuries was overwhelming. The shark's teeth had torn into her arm and leg, and the blood loss made each stroke feel heavier. The pressure of the deep water only added to her exhaustion, and the further she swam, the more difficult it became to stay conscious. The surface seemed so far away. Her body felt weak, and her movements slowed. The shark, sensing vulnerability, circled her again. Each time it came closer, Maria's fear grew. Although she had always been prepared for dangerous encounters, this was unlike anything she had experienced. She fought to keep herself upright, pushing through the intense pain, but the shark remained persistent, lurking in the depths, waiting for another opportunity. Maria's strength faded with every stroke she took toward the surface. Once calming and peaceful, the water seemed to be closing in on her. Despite her efforts, the dark shadow of the shark seemed to loom larger with each passing moment. By the time Maria reached the surface, she could barely stay afloat. Her body was limp, and the once clear water around her was clouded with her blood. The dive team on the boat, who had been monitoring her progress, saw her reappear and immediately rushed to pull her out of the water. They could see that she was unresponsive and the situation was dire. The crew acted quickly, attempting to resuscitate Maria as they rushed her back to shore. But the damage had already been done. Her injuries were severe, and despite the immediate medical attention, Maria's body was too weak to survive. The freediver, who had once pushed the limits of human endurance, had succumbed to the wounds inflicted by the shark. The incident was a devastating blow to the freediving community, and Maria's tragic death left her friends, family, and fellow divers in shock. Her untimely passing forced authorities to reevaluate safety measures in deep water diving, especially in shark-prone regions. The incident raised awareness about the dangers of diving in areas where large predators like great white sharks roam. It was a tragic reminder that, despite careful preparation and experience, nature's unpredictability can have fatal consequences. On September 30, 2024, Thomas Reed, a seasoned commercial fisherman, was working off the coast of South Africa. Thomas had spent most of his life on the water, growing up in a fishing family and learning the trade from an early age. He had a deep understanding of the sea and its rhythms. His daily routine involved long hours on his fishing boat, preparing nets, checking his catch, and ensuring everything was ready for the day's haul. Thomas had spent decades working in these waters and had become very familiar with the risks involved in the profession. He was known for his skill and patience, and he was always careful when navigating the unpredictable conditions of the ocean. On that fateful morning, Thomas was out at sea with his crew, preparing for a day of fishing. It was still dark when the crew started their work. At 4 a.m., Thomas and his crew began to secure their catch while checking the nets. The water was calm, and there was no sign of any danger. But Thomas knew the risks of working in open waters, especially near areas where sharks were known to be. The scent of fish often attracted sharks, and fishermen like Thomas had to remain alert. As Thomas checked the nets, the sea suddenly erupted with a terrifying force. A massive 13-foot great white shark, likely drawn by the scent of the fish in the water, attacked Thomas with incredible speed. Before he could react, the shark struck, sinking its powerful jaws into Thomas's torso. The sheer force of the shark's attack knocked Thomas off balance, and the shark pulled him underwater. Hearing his screams and realizing the danger, his crewmates immediately rushed to rescue him. They quickly pulled him from the water, but the shark wasn't finished. In a shocking turn of events, the shark returned for a second attack before the crew could get Thomas back onto the boat. The shark's relentless behavior left the crew scrambling to save their fellow fishermen. They managed to pull Thomas to safety, but it was too late. By the time they reached the boat and attempted to provide medical help, Thomas had already lost too much blood from the severe injuries inflicted by the shark. His crewmates did everything they could, but the damage was fatal. Thomas Reed, a man who had spent his life on the water, died that morning after a violent and unexpected shark attack. His death left his family, friends, and crew in shock, as it was a tragedy no one had anticipated. The incident raised serious concerns about shark interactions with commercial fishing boats, particularly in areas where sharks were known to hunt. The risks of working in open waters became a central topic of discussion, especially as this attack brought attention to the daily danger that fishermen like Thomas faced. The aftermath of Thomas Reed's tragic death was felt deeply by his family, friends, and the entire fishing community. As news of the shark attack spread, shock and disbelief rippled through the coastal town where Thomas had lived and worked for most of his life. His family, who had always known the dangers of his profession, were left heartbroken. They had lost a beloved husband, father, and brother unexpectedly and brutally. Thomas's crew, who had worked alongside him for many years, were shaken by the events. They had seen the ocean at its most unpredictable, but nothing had prepared them for an attack of such force. Many of them had worked in the same waters for decades, and while they were aware of sharks in the area, they had never encountered one as aggressive as the one that had killed Thomas. The loss of their colleague left them with a deep sense of grief and guilt, as they wondered if there was anything they could have done differently. The shark attack raised serious concerns about the risks of fishing in areas with high shark activity. Experts began to investigate the circumstances surrounding the attack. The shark's aggression was believed to have been triggered by the scent of fish in the water, which had drawn the predator close to the boat. Commercial fishing boats often work in these shark-prone areas, and while shark attacks on fishermen are rare, the incident highlighted the need for better safety measures. In response to the attack, local authorities and fishing associations began reviewing safety protocols for commercial fishermen. They discussed implementing measures such as increased shark monitoring in high-risk areas, better training for fishermen on responding to shark encounters, and using protective equipment. These discussions sparked a wider conversation about the growing presence of sharks in fishing areas and the need for greater awareness of the risks involved. The fishing industry also took steps to raise awareness of shark behavior and ensure that future incidents like this could be prevented. Fishermen were encouraged to take extra precautions, especially in open waters where sharks were known to frequent. Though Thomas's death was a devastating loss, it served as a stark reminder of the dangers that fishermen face and the need for continued vigilance when working in shark-prone regions. On January 3, 2025, the Harris family, consisting of 5 members, set out for an exciting kayaking trip in the Bay of Islands, New Zealand. The family, originally from Auckland, had always shared a love for outdoor adventures, and the picturesque Bay of Islands seemed like the perfect destination for a peaceful day on the water. William Harris, the father, was 42 years old, an avid nature lover, and the driving force behind the family's outdoor adventures. He was known for his calm demeanor and deep connection to the outdoors. William was an experienced kayaker who had taken his family on numerous kayaking trips, teaching his children the skills they needed to navigate the water safely. His wife, Lisa, was also passionate about outdoor activities. Together, they had 3 children: their eldest son, Ethan, age 16, their daughter, Sophie, age 12, and their youngest, Liam, 9. The family had always tried to spend quality time together in nature, often going on hiking, camping, and kayaking trips. Their bond was strong, and their shared love of adventure brought them closer. The family set out for a calm and scenic kayak trip on that particular day. The weather was perfect, with clear skies and gentle winds. It was around 11 a.m. when they set off, with William in the lead, followed by Lisa and the children in separate kayaks. The waters of the Bay of Islands were known for their serenity and beauty, attracting tourists from around the world. The family paddled along a peaceful route, enjoying the stunning coastline views and the lush greenery surrounding them. It was a relaxing outing they had done many times before with no signs of danger. However, their peaceful adventure would soon turn into a nightmare. Without warning, a massive 10-foot great white shark appeared, charging at William's kayak. The suddenness of the attack left the family in shock. The shark struck incredibly, capsizing William's kayak and sending him into the water. The family watched horror as the shark lunged again, grabbing William's leg. He struggled to regain control and swim back to his kayak, but the shark was relentless. It pulled him underwater with terrifying strength, and his family, helpless on the shore, screamed for help. Lisa and the children scrambled to get closer to the shore, their hearts racing with fear and panic. Nearby kayakers witnessing the attack rushed toward the family in an attempt to help, but the situation was too dire. And by the time help arrived, it was too late. Despite their best efforts, William could not be saved. His injuries from the shark attack were fatal, and he passed away before he could be rescued. The authorities quickly responded to the tragedy, closing the area to all water activities while investigating the rare and unexpected shark encounter. This tragic event left the Harris family devastated. What was meant to be a day of family bonding in one of the world's most beautiful locations turned into a nightmare they would never forget. The aftermath of William Harris's tragic death was felt deeply not only by his immediate family, but also by the entire local community. The Harris family had always been known for their warmth and love for nature. William's death left a hole that could never be filled, and the family was devastated by the sudden and brutal loss of their beloved father and husband. Lisa, his wife, and their 3 children, Ethan, Sophie, and Liam, were left to cope with the unimaginable grief of losing William in such a violent and unexpected way. As news of the shark attack spread, the fishing and tourism communities in the Bay of Islands were shaken. Local authorities acted quickly to investigate the circumstances surrounding the attack. The area was known for its peaceful waters and rare shark attacks. In response to this tragic event, the authorities temporarily closed the area to all water activities. This measure was intended to ensure other visitors' safety and allow for a full investigation into the shark's behavior. Experts noted that great white sharks are often attracted to areas with abundant marine life, including seals and schools of fish, which could explain the shark's presence near the family. However, the shark's sudden and aggressive attack was unusual, leading to concerns about possible changes in shark behavior due to environmental factors. In the weeks following the incident, the Harris family was overwhelmed by the emotional toll of losing William. The family had been on what was meant to be a peaceful vacation, a time for bonding and enjoying each other's company. Instead, they were left with the painful memories of a day that had started with so much promise. Lisa, who had been by William's side for many years, struggled to find meaning in the loss. She took time off from her work to focus on her children, who were also deeply affected by their father's death. Ethan, the eldest, took it especially hard, feeling the responsibility of being the man of the house. Sophie and Liam, still young, found it difficult to understand why their father was gone, and they missed his comforting presence in their daily lives. The local community rallied around the family, offering support in any way they could. The Harris family had been a familiar and well-liked presence in the Bay of Islands, and many people reached out to help, whether through emotional or practical assistance. Despite the outpouring of kindness, the pain of William's loss was constant. The family's life would never be the same, and they faced the daunting task of navigating a future without the man who had been their rock. In response to the incident, there were calls for greater safety measures for tourists engaging in water activities in shark-prone areas. The attack on William Harris had raised awareness about the potential risks associated with water sports, even in considered safe locations. Local officials began discussing the possibility of implementing shark safety programs, including more frequent patrols and using technology to monitor shark movements. Additionally, the incident sparked conversations about the need for further research into shark behavior, particularly in areas where tourists frequently engage in water activities. Although the Harris family faced an unimaginable loss, their resilience began to show as they gradually found ways to honor William's memory. The family established a foundation in his name to support marine conservation efforts and promote safety in water activities. By focusing on preserving the environment that William had loved so much, the family hoped to turn their tragedy into a force for good, ensuring that his legacy would live on through efforts to protect both people and the ocean. In the years that followed, the Harris family slowly began to heal. The grief of losing William would never completely fade, but through the love of each other and the support of their community, they found ways to continue living and honoring his memory. Though the shark attack had changed their lives forever, the Harris family remained determined to move forward and find hope in the face of tragedy. On April 20th, 2024, the annual Ironman triathlon competition took place in the coastal waters of Queensland, Australia. This prestigious event attracted hundreds of athletes worldwide, all eager to test their endurance across a 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride and a full marathon run. Among the participants was Jacob Rader, a dedicated triathlete known for his disciplined training and remarkable performance in previous competitions. Jacob, 29, was a local Brisbane athlete competing in triathlons for several years. He had built a strong reputation in his community for his hard work and calm demeanor under pressure. Jacob had always been passionate about swimming, and his strength in the water made him a strong contender in triathlons. Growing up near the coast, he spent much of his youth swimming in the ocean and training for open water competitions. As a seasoned athlete, Jacob had participated in several Ironman events and was accustomed to the challenges of such demanding races. This year, he hoped to achieve a personal best in the swim portion of the race and continue his streak of solid performances. On the morning of April 20th, the air was filled with excitement as athletes gathered for the swim portion of the race, which began at 8 a.m. The waters off Queensland were calm that day, and the sky was clear. With hundreds of triathletes jumping into the water, there was a lot of commotion as they began swimming in a tightly packed group. The race started smoothly, with Jacob keeping pace with the other athletes. Seeing so many people swimming together created a sense of unity and determination as the swimmers made their way out into the open water. However, amidst the chaos of the race, a large tiger shark, likely startled by the flurry of movement, appeared from below the surface. Amid the swimmers, the shark, likely confused by the commotion, attacked Jacob with surprising speed and force. The shark bit down on Jacob's leg, pulling him underwater. Unaware of the immediate danger, the surrounding swimmers continued swimming while others heard Jacob's screams and immediately attempted to help. Jacob fought against the shark's grip as best as he could, but the sheer strength of the predator made it impossible for him to break free. The shark released its hold on Jacob and swam away, leaving him struggling to stay afloat. Despite his injuries, Jacob continued to fight to remain conscious and afloat in the water. The emergency response team, stationed near the race, quickly rushed to his aid. They reached Jacob and began providing immediate medical attention, pulling him from the water. However, the damage was severe, and the injuries Jacob sustained were fatal. He succumbed to his wounds before he could be transported to the hospital. The shark attack shocked the entire event. The Ironman competition, a source of pride and excitement for the triathletes, was temporarily halted as emergency teams attended. The tragic incident raised immediate concerns about the safety of open-water swimming events, particularly in areas known for shark activity. Authorities quickly assessed the risks of hosting such events in these waters and discussed new safety measures to prevent future attacks. The aftermath of the attack left the entire triathlon community devastated. Jacob Rader's death was a tragic event that shook not only his family and friends, but also the thousands of athletes and spectators who were part of the Ironman competition. Known for his dedication and skill, Jacob was admired by many, and his sudden death brought home the risks of extreme sports, even in areas considered relatively safe. Authorities quickly investigated the incident, and marine experts investigated the tiger shark's behavior. Sharks often become disoriented by the chaos created in large group swim events, and the combination of the swimmers' movements and the presence of large numbers of people in the water could trigger a shark's territorial instincts. The shark's attack on Jacob in the middle of the race raised concerns about the safety of future triathlons and other open water events. In the wake of the attack, the Ironman competition was temporarily halted as safety procedures were reviewed. Organizers, athletes, and local authorities began to discuss new safety protocols for events held in areas known for shark activity. These discussions included increased shark monitoring, using nets or barriers to protect swimmers, and better education for athletes on what to do if they encounter a shark. The goal was to minimize the chances of something like this ever happening again, although the unpredictable nature of sharks made it clear that no system could guarantee absolute safety. The family of Jacob Rader, devastated by the loss of their loved one, also found themselves dealing with the sudden attention from the media. While they were grateful for the support they received from the community, they struggled to cope with the grief and shock of losing Jacob in such a violent manner. The tragedy left a void in their lives, and the family needed time to process the loss. For the triathlon community, Jacob's death was a sobering reminder of the unpredictable dangers that athletes face during such extreme events. It also led to a re-evaluation of how sports organizations can better balance the thrill of competition with the safety of the participants. Jacob's legacy would live on, not only in the hearts of those who knew him personally, but also in the ongoing conversations about safety and open water sports.